Welcome back. For this series, I'm trying to document the progress, or perhaps lack of, that I've had throughout each day. In this first video, I started some basic planning for my first game project. I've got a very general idea of what I want to do, but perhaps we can flesh this out a bit more with some pictures, some goals, or tasks. In day 1, as I predicted in the channel intro, I didn't feel satisfied with the channel name and changed it just 2 hours later. And less than an hour later, I decided I still didn't like what I changed it to. And so I wasted the entirety of the morning trying to come up with another name, which I do think sounds nice for now. And what do you know? I literally did absolutely nothing today. Didn't even work on the script for this video. Alright, it's day 2. For today, I'm going to try to outline what I want to do for this first project. I want to start with something simple. In the past, I've thought of starting with a Galaga or space shooter type game with stages of enemies culminating in a boss. But I'm now thinking it's probably simpler to do some kind of infinite runner. I could perhaps try to make a Galaga infinite runner game, but I started to think it'd be nice to try cloning something like the Dinosaur Chrome game when you lose internet connection. That way, I wouldn't need to deal with object pooling for bullets or things like that. Or would I? It probably makes sense to pool obstacles. I actually recently discovered that there is now an object pool in the Unity API, so perhaps we can make use of that instead of writing our own again. Anyway, I'm hoping that choosing to make this type of game will make for a favorable trade-off in that coding effort is somewhat reduced in exchange for potentially higher art effort. If, for example, I wanted to try having not geometric shape characters, and especially if I attempt to do a basic running animation or something like that. Now that we've scribbled all of this, I'll make a Trello board to come up with and organize some tasks. Actually, I have an existing Trello board from 2019, and ironically, there's also a space shooter board from 2020. Let's repurpose this one for this infinite runner. Well, hardly any progress in day 2 too. I did record the paint scribble, and hopefully tomorrow I'll start on the Trello board. Day 7, I finally recorded the Trello planning. I actually ended up recording this twice, since I botched the first video capture because the crop dimensions weren't right for the screen. I decided it might be easier to just redo it rather than trying to fix it in post. Obviously, this is pretty bare bones, and I could definitely be more specific, and perhaps split out more subtasks for things. Can you even have subtasks in Trello? Or is it just the checklist? I feel like I've dragged this on for way too long though. I'd like to finally get moving and actually do some Unity work. Why Unity? The reason is quite simply that I've used it before. I have actually tried other things in the past, such as Coco Studio and Godot, but as mentioned, I keep forgetting everything and coming back instead of keeping up. So I'm hoping that using something that I'm slightly more familiar with will help me get to a finished product faster. Day 11. I finally started recording the narration. I'll record my final thoughts today since I don't think there's a need for any further narration, but the actual video editing will probably still take another 1 to 3 days. Well, completing this video has dragged on for long enough. There were 6 or so days where I did literally nothing, and that's not good. Still stuck with old time-wasting habits. I suppose you could say that I did do something for almost half of the 2 weeks spent, which is certainly a big improvement over 0 days. In retrospect, I think my video making process was a bit flawed. This time around, I tried to jot what I hoped to do and write a little script before recording, but it felt like that led to moments where the narration didn't seem to match anything in the screen recording. And eventually I gave up on trying to revise or re-record the out-of-place sections. Ultimately, I decided it was better to just put something out, because it's far more important to just get started with the actual project. Got to get the feet wet, right? But here I am, dilly-dallying, taking off the shoes. Honestly though, it is quite underwhelming that all that was produced in this was a Trello board, which certainly was doable within one day. Yet, it's taken almost 2 weeks to put everything together for this video. Although of course, a big chunk of that was spent doing absolutely nothing. In the future, I think it might be better to jot notes after the day is done. Perhaps I don't need to try to plan so much, or even any of the script ahead of time, and instead could try to make something up on reviewing the screen recordings of the day. Maybe that'll also add to the sense of, did I get something done today? Well, in any case, incremental progress is always a good thing. I am still a beginner after all. Hopefully, I can learn from this and spend a little less time on the next video. Thanks for watching, and see you another time.